I'll go ahead and jump in. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just introduce myself while we have technical difficulties here. My name is Ian Thomas. I'm the newly elected chair of the ACC, the Athens-Clarke County Board of Trustees. Had my first meeting last week, so I'm like jumping into it with that presentation. And Director Bell.
I'm your library director.
And what we're going to be presenting on here this evening is a proposed East Side Library branch. And so the way I was going to break this presentation down is spend a little bit of time right at the beginning talking about what libraries are doing. It's not just books anymore. And that's to give you guys an idea of the kind of things that we're going to be supporting out of this new building. Spend a little bit of time on the economic impact, which is something that tends to get overlooked with libraries a little bit. What the libraries are already doing to get money in there, because we want you to think that we're not actually actively going out and trying to support ourselves with this. And then spend the bulk of the time about talking why specifically we think the East Side really needs a library branch. Final slide will be showing you guys a couple buildings so you can get an idea of the scale that we're talking about. And then we'll have a conclusion where hopefully I will have convinced everybody that this is a great idea. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into it now. Libraries, not just books anymore. Libraries are actually supporting a wide range of different types of activities. One of the main ones is that it's actually an educational facility. And we've got a couple of different options up here. This one right here is my favorite, Parents of the World. It's kind of your traditional literacy program. And this is something that they do for the summers to make sure that kids don't, lose everything that they've learned during the school year. And this is the kind of thing that actually has been pretty consistent in libraries for a lot of years, supporting literacy and all that. But actually, that's just the very top end of the types of programs that they cover. Another one that's really interesting is this one that's right here. It's the culinary literacy classes. So this takes those traditional English as a second language classes and throws into like cooking literacy, which I could honestly probably use at this point, how to cook, and then also brings reading comprehension into it. So this is an example of one of these really creative programs that the library support that's actually hitting a bunch of different needs. The Makers Fest booth, which I believe is the second one right here, there is a makerspace in the library, and this is designed to support these new technologies that are coming down. 3D printers. Virtual reality type things. This is actually designed to introduce children at a young age to these new technologies. And lastly, there's actually a cultural education component. This one right here is for the Outlandish in Athens, which is a Scottish heritage festival that's held over 3 days, I believe, tied in with the Outlander TV series, which I've never seen. And books. Okay. Second one. And actually, the libraries support a lot of local history initiatives and a local cultural thing. So one of the main things that the library has in the main library branch is the Heritage Hunt. This is an example of that where they basically scanned the Flagpole Media Archives. This is a local newspaper. It's nowhere else in the country, and actually archived it so that future historians can actually have access to this material. That's something that's pretty central. Storyboard. This was basically the trailer was set up, people could come in and it would capture oral histories from Athens. So the library is actually kind of a museum for Athens, and this is where all this information is going. Mayoral debates. The libraries are pretty central to the local political scene in Athens. We hosted the mayoral debates. It's also a voting location, both early voting and late voting, so both of those. And if we had a branch over on the east side, we could also use it for that. We're going to move one more. And the last thing is it's meeting space. There's a lot of different viewpoints out in the world. Everybody's arguing and all this. The library serves as a way to kind of unify that. So it doesn't matter what your viewpoints are. You can come in and use the space. And you can use it for meetings, but also some other things. Here is our Pinewood branch, which hosted a bike giveaway as part of their after-school program. And this was funded by the JCs, Academy Sports, Bike Athens, and then Novo Nordisk, which is a local cycling team. Also, a lot of this stuff is local library, school tours, and as I said before, it's a meeting space. And there's actually a real need for that on the east side, just a free meeting space that you can go to. Okay, I'm going to jump into the economic impact of it. When you think about all the different things that the library offers, checking out books, digital downloads and all that, there's a real dollar amount associated with it. What Val has done is run these numbers, and these numbers were actually come up from the, I believe, the Massachusetts Library Association, and come up with the actual dollar amount that these different services that the library offers, and how they can support the community. This is money that we don't have to send to Amazon, for example. This is money that stays local. But libraries have not been sitting still, so we don't just go out and ask for money, we actually go out and actively try to get it. And these are some of the main grants that have come up. Won a $100,000 grant to even put a solar garden. This is new technology. This is one of 2 libraries in the entire planet that got that grant. Athens, Clarke County. Some other ones. This one was $150,000 to be a trauma-informed service library. This is basically to be kind of the front line if somebody comes in so that we know where to send them to the different services. Right here, I believe this is a $2,000 one to promote traditional literacy. American, I can read that one, it's $10,000 for that. And then the Heritage Room actually won an award for basically, going out and doing the flagpole materials that I talked about a little earlier. So for calendar year 2018, libraries have raised over $172,000 in grant money. So we're not coming to you saying like, this is a bad organization, we just need money to keep us afloat, because they're doing pretty well. But this, we actually do need extra money to be better than we are already. And the upside of all of this was that in 2018, the Athens Clarke County Library was voted the #1 public library system in the state of Georgia. And that's entirely because of the leadership that Val's provided her staff and all that stuff. But I'm trying to... So specifically, why the east side? So as I mentioned before, public meeting space. There's really a dearth of material there, or a space there, to meet. There's also a problem if you're on the east side to getting to the public library, the main branch of the public library. And that's simple geography. There are 2 bridges that go across the Oconee River, and if you've ever tried to drive in Athens when school's changing or anything like that, you know that the traffic is a real mess. It can take, if you're trying to go when all the students are leaving, it can take you upwards of 2 hours if you're on public transportation to get to the local library. This is something that's not serving the needs of the constituents on the east side. If we had a library there, they wouldn't have to worry about going over those 2 bridges into the, to the central location. It's on a bus line, and it'll actually increase library percentage for the people that are native to that side of Athens. And that's the main thing that we want to do. We don't think that they're being served because it's so difficult to actually get to the main branch. Computer internet use, obviously providing that there would be good. And again, it's free information. A lot of these services are going to be free. There's not going to be any more cost. But I do want to emphasize a little bit more about how important this is for a cultural nexus for East Athens. There really isn't any sort of unifying thing there, and we think that a library branch can actually provide kind of a unified way for that community to get together and access all of these programs that we have. And it's difficult to get to the central branch on this stuff. So we think that's going to be really important. We think it would help with economic development. Because if you're a company and you're looking at a community to go to, it says something if your community is cutting library sources or resources, or if that community is actually putting more money in and expanding it. And, again, if you're actually supporting your library branches, putting money to that, it says something about that. And Athens has had a great track record for supporting the library, and we think this would actually increase that and make it sound like we're including the entire community with this and providing services wherever it's needed in a very cost-effective way. Now we really want, there are a lot of places that we put around for this. The Southeast Clarke Park, actually, we own this land, so that's not going to be extra expense. We can spend all this money on the building itself. And when the plans first came out, we were thinking that that would be a great place for it. There's a bunch of neighborhoods around there. It's on major bus lines. There are a lot of different activities in that park already that lend themselves that a library can actually help improve. You've got the dog park. You can see coming in, I'm going to go walk the dog, I'm going to throw the kid in. Okay, you're not going to throw your kid in the library. But so your kid can go and use go there for different programs. There is a playground right there. There's a whole bunch of different activities, and we can see that the library, putting that right there, would actually provide a hub for all this kind of stuff in all those neighborhoods around there. And again, it's on public transportation, so we're not going to have to worry about that. And you already own the land, which is a huge expense. And again, as I mentioned before, this really does show a commitment to what Athens is all about. I can't say that enough. The fact that we're supporting our libraries this much says a lot about this community. And lastly, these are the two buildings. This one is for the Oconee County branch. It's about 18,000 square feet. Madison is at 18,000. The population that this serves is 29,000, and this is 36,000. That gives you an idea of roughly the size of the building or the scale that they're talking about, the proposal. And then, is there anything to add? Questions? Yes.
So the proposed building is going to be around 18,000 square feet.
We proposed 20,000.
20,000. What's the current square footage of the one over here? Is it Baxter Street?
It's that one is like 86,000 square feet. There's no comparison. But I did check today, and I can tell you that I believe that Dougherty Street, remember the old library on Dougherty? That one's about 21.
So is the planning and zoning place now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
That's about the size we're talking.
The addition that was added to the library recently was 20,000 square feet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, and right now, the only library facility on east side is a room, basically. Right? So, right behind. Yes.
So the Southeast Clark Park, I mean, I'm all about free. I love that. But in this instance, you know, I'm a middle school parent. I just am aware how closely related the library system has been with CCSD and lifting up kids. So, I mean, the trauma-informed school or the trauma-informed library thing, that is huge. You're the first one in the state, right?
Yes, we are.
So it pains me that kids from Hillsman, Cedar, Gaines couldn't walk to this facility. So this is the first project, I will say this, is that I would rather you increase your budget to provide land acquisition and allow those kids to walk to your library. So I don't know what that's kind of a statement more than a question, but I don't know what you think about that because...
Well, I think it's a good point. I mean, obviously one of the main demographics is the public libraries you're designed to support are going to be the local student population. I think you kind of have to do a balancing act between, it's to support the entire community, so we're trying to think of a place that would actually meet as many of those needs as possible. I don't know how difficult it would be for students to get there, but we could certainly look at ideas on, I don't know, shuttle buses are probably a question, but then we would also need to get, yeah. So I think that's a solvable problem once the facility gets it. The other thing,
it's also where the park is also, and I believe that there's plans as well for sidewalks. People can walk, kids can bike to the park in a safe environment. What you're saying may be, well, it's true, but if you're on that road, on Gaines School Road during rush hour, busy times, it's not the most, I don't think it's the most safe place for children running around after school paying attention to, you know, to the cars and all of that stuff, trying to get to the library. And it's my understanding that this area is going to be it's not just for now. We're looking, this is a future as well as now. And so the future, maybe over on that side, could be in this area of development where kids can comfortably and safely ride their bikes or walk together to get to the library, not just after school, but on Saturdays and, you know, after they've had dinner, and families can come as well. It's more than just, our public library is much more than just an after-school location.
It can kind of be a nexus for kind of all, like our future alternative transportation, depending on how we want to do that. By kind of natural center of gravity. Yes, sir.
Do you have any idea as to the utilization of the library as stands now, say, like how many people are coming through those doors?
That was up there.
I'm
I
sorry.
go back,
I can tell you, give me 1 second.
so here's your performance measures.
Do you believe those numbers?
What do you mean?
Do you believe those, return on investment numbers?
Yeah, well, yeah, so we actually had we anticipated that question. So what it's done is it's based on kind of the average cost. So for example, for book downloads, it's based on the average cost that you would get if you were downloading from Amazon, for example. And so what they do is they basically take that and the number of times downloaded, and that's how those numbers are reached.
I'm good for now, but I'd like to know an awful lot more about the methodology.
Yeah, sure. I think Val has this.
Yes, okay. We can give you a copy of the methodology, but it is from Amazon and it's from Barnes & Noble. If people were to purchase, that's what the average price is. And like for entertainment, what the average cost is for adult entertainment, what's the average cost for children's entertainment. And so they come out with what those are, and then we multiply it by the number of things that we did. I do not have the visitors.
But it was in the proposal. You did list that in the proposal or in the Q&A. It was in the questions and answers. I know I saw it somewhere.
Right, it was.
It's in the Q&A.
What I can share with you is that I don't think that this is, to be perfectly honest, I don't think that this building is going to impact negatively the Baxter Street building. I think we're going to be reaching a broader group of people. So I don't think it's going to be like, well, if it's 10,000, then you're going to see a 10,000. Well, it's way more than that. Okay, it's in the millions. Where you're going to see that kind of loss at Baxter Street. I do not believe that. I think we're only going to see increases from the library and people using it.
Just to the question, I think a library is a cultural centerpiece to the communities and adds incredible value to where you live.
Yeah, definitely.
I get the part about meeting space and community and all of that. You don't need to convince me about that. But to what extent would you propose to duplicate the holdings of the Baxter Street Library?
This is not, the proposal that I made was not a duplication of efforts. It was additional efforts at a branch library. So the services, the Baxter Street is our headquarters, flagship operation. We can't, I don't think, I didn't ask for enough money to duplicate Baxter Street. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at something that says 30,000 items at the new branch.
Yes.
It's $1 million. That's maybe not a large amount in what we're talking about here, but I just want to get some sense about the extent to which there would be a duplicate set of holdings, maybe not volume for volume, but...
There may be some, no, it wouldn't be. The Baxter Street location has the largest number of books and things like that. I would say this location, and we can transport books back and forth, which is what we do on a regular basis. So there may be some duplication, but I would assume that duplication is going to be for the most popular collections, where it would be nice to walk in and see your bestseller on the shelf. So it may be things like that.
Valerie, I noticed on the budget there was on line items 12 and 13 where it talks about other library materials and resources for all libraries, and then the building technology infrastructure. Is this something that is currently handled, purchases are handled through the operating budget of the library?
No, not everything is handled through the operating budget of the library. Sometimes there's, if it's a big ticket item, then we need to rely on SPOS dollars for that. I would say within the next 5 years, for instance, the Baxter Street, we really do probably need to look at painting and if not painting, certainly carpet replacement.
So is that the sort of thing that would be covered with these?
So we try to include that, and there's, with all of the various buildings that we have, certainly carpet replacement. The painting may be something that's covered by the county.
12 and 13 is your other books and technology line items that you've been getting from SPOS. in the
Yes,
past.
yes.
That's not facilities money.
No, we do, the library, I'm sorry, the library does use FELOS money for books and materials across the 4 libraries in the region, in Athens, Clark County.
And that was then just because I believe Georgia really cut the funding.
Georgia cut the funding, they just moved it up a little bit, so it's 30 cents per capita, which for us amounts to about $25,000, I would say, $30,000. Which, I mean, you know, I'm a reader, granted, but that's not a lot of money for books.
Yeah, mind that question.
I will state that in the library world, we've been trying to get to $1 per capita in Georgia so that we're somewhat comparable with many other states. Since I took my first library education, library science course in the 60s. I'm just saying.
That's good information to know.
And so we've gotten to 33 cents. We did get higher at one point, but they keep cutting us back.
It's 30
The
cents.
state fusses about education, but then chooses not to fund it.
Anything else?
You've asked us for 15 million. You'll ask the citizens of Clark County for 15 million. What's the minimum amount that you would need to do this project?
That is the minimum amount I would need to do a 20,000 square foot building. If we make it less, then the building itself is going to be, would have to be smaller.
So if we didn't think we could recommend 15 million, there's no alternative.
Well, no, I'd be happy to, if that's the case, I'd be happy to relook at things, but off the top of my head, what I can't say is that, yes, you would get the proposal that we presented for less than.
But you'd be willing to prepare an alternative?
Of course, absolutely.
I think we're out of time.
Okay.
Uh,
I'll say it later.
okay.
Thank you all.